Hey readers, I am about to do the mid-year freak out book tag, which is a chance to go over the past 6 months or the first half of 2020 and kind of assess and reflect on the books I've read, pick out the ones that I've loved, ones that kind of let me down, what I'm excited for the last half of the year, and any other little tidbits I can throw out there. So this is one that I've done in the past through my blog, but I wanted to do a video this time to talk a little bit more about it. When I read through the prompts, some of them were a little bit easier to pick out than others, but I think that's part of the fun, is to do a deep dive into the books I've read so far. So at this point, I've read 47 out of the 75 that was my Goodreads goal. So doing pretty well. I think I'm 10 books ahead of schedule, whatever that math is. I used to be good at math. So much for that. I should have majored in it or something, but I think I'll be able to complete that goal by the end of the year if I keep up the same pace. But I also want to make sure that I'm deep in the reading that I'm doing and reflecting on those pages and doing reviews. So it's kind of a mixed bag of, yes, I'm going to read all the books that are on my TBR, but also wanting to relax and enjoy them thoroughly. So we'll see about that. So the first prompt for the mid-year freak out book tag is the best book I've read so far. That book for me is Britt-Marie Was Here by Fredrik Backman. You can see all the tabs that I put in there, but this book was brilliant. Fredrik Backman is such a talented writer. I had mentioned when I had shared this book before that I've read some of his other books, like A Man Called Ova. He has Anxious People coming out later this year, but this was so heartwarming. It's about independence and how you can find yourself in the unlikeliest of places. And I think that was beautiful, as I try to be an independent person, and as I move or travel places on my own, I look to find community, and that's what Britt-Marie does. And I think it's a cool cast of characters that she befriends and is a mother-like figure, a friend, and just an overall well-grounded person, and learns a lot from the community and about herself. The next prompt is the best sequel I've read so far. So for this one, this is not really a sequel. It is not even a prequel. It's a alternate adaptation, but it is Darcy's Story by Janet Aylmer. So Janet Aylmer is a pseudonym. So I actually got to talk with the writer, and she helped do a interview guest blog post a few weeks ago, so I'll link to that below. But this was so brilliant. I think it was very loyal to the original Pride and Prejudice story, but in Darcy's perspective, and you got to learn a little bit more about his history with Georgiana, with Wickham, and his whole family dynamic, and kind of his internal thoughts as he was being attracted to Elizabeth, rejected by Elizabeth, and trying to understand where he went wrong. So brilliant book. The next prompt is a new release that I haven't read yet, but really want to. And it should be coming in the mail any day now. I won a giveaway for it. It is The Vanishing Half by Bennett. And I think it will be a phenomenal read. It's already won, well, not awards yet, but it's been highly ranked and rated by a lot of the bloggers I follow, a lot of the New York Times ratings and lists. But I think it's going to be a great book, and I think it's appropriate for where we're at right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, and then celebrating Juneteenth this past week. So it's a story of a set of twins who were born and lived in a Black community in the South, but it fast forwards a few years, and one sibling is living with her Black daughter in the South, and one sibling is passing as white. And I think it could be very interesting because as a mixed race person myself, I often question or have a lot of thoughts about passing as a certain race, and what assumptions are made or what questions I get asked. So I think it should be pretty interesting. And it reminds me a little bit, just based off the synopsis, of the Gilded years. So that was a story, oh gosh, we read for our book club, and it was kind of similar but set back years ago, where a woman was passing as white and attending an all-women's college, I believe in New York. And then her secret gets out that she is actually Black. So yeah, just interesting times, interesting stories and plots. And I think this will be a great book to read as we're trying to support more Black authors. Up next, we have the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And this I am so super excited about. I'd seen the reveal on BookCon and Book Expo's virtual conference this past year since we weren't able to go to New York, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And I've heard so much about this author. It is a fantasy adult novel where the character is cursed to live forever, but whoever she meets doesn't remember her, or she's forgotten. So I think it could be interesting. I never have read V.E. Schwab before, but I've seen her as well on all over different lists. I think she writes for both YA and adult, so that's cool to be able to serve different audiences. But I saw that and I'm like, yes, that needs to be on my to-be read pile. Up next is the biggest disappointment, and I hate to be able to post or share books that have disappointed me, but that's the reality. Books aren't always going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. So the book I chose is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and she has been getting a lot of hype with this book and for The Night Circus. I had not read The Night Circus. I had listened to the audiobook of The Starless Sea. Maybe that was the issue because it was a little dense to be listening to that as I'd been commuting to work and just driving around places. It was hard for me to concentrate on. I felt like it jumped all over the place and it was a little too fantasy or out there. I'm sorry, I'm probably offending so many people out there. I should not be apologizing. It just wasn't my thing. That's fine. I did finish it. But I think it had an imaginative narrative, but I just couldn't keep track of it. So that is my biggest disappointment. Womp womp. On to more positive notes. The biggest surprise of the year was Girls of Atomic City by Denise Kiernan, and this book was gifted to me a few years ago and I finally got around to it as it served as my Read Around the World challenge for the US in Tennessee. So I'm picking different states within the US. So this, I'm not usually a big fan of history, nonfiction stories, but because it was written in narrative form, I absolutely loved it. And it's about women who were brought, well, women and men, but mainly women, who were brought to the Tennessee camp that was responsible for World War II's bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they didn't really know it at the time, but it's learning about how they got recruited, what their life was like there, what their family life was like there, if they were able to bring family, and kind of like the secrecy that they had to be under, and maybe punishments if they let anything get out. So super interesting, loved it, and like definitely pleasantly surprised. Next prompt is favorite new author, and I just sent this book off to one of my friends in Colorado, but it was Anna Hope's Expectation, and it was brilliant. I loved her style. I have to look up, I'm not sure if she's written anything else, but it's the story of three women. They've been friends for a long time. They're now in their mid to late 30s, and their life or lives aren't anything what they had planned, or if they are, it's not what they had hoped for. And I just thought, maybe because it was just the time that I'm at right now as I'm thinking about my life and where I'm at, but I think that she captured a lot of great stories and storytelling and emotions and feelings of women in their 30s. So Anna Hope, remember that name. Hope she comes out with more stuff. All right, so a book that made me cry, that would be Christopher Paul Curtis's The Mighty Miss Malone. So I had read his books when I was younger. Bud Not Buddies probably is the most popular one that I had read. And this one, for Mighty Miss Malone, it's set in Michigan, another one of my Read Around the World challenge reads. And well, it's Indiana and Michigan, but this little girl, she is super smart and is in a poor Black family, Black community, and just trying to impress upon her friends and her school how smart she is, and not really understanding some of the racial issues in the community, especially as they're asked to move, or they have to move because of financial reasons, socioeconomic status, and a whole host of other things. So it was super fascinating, but heart-wrenching for like a child's perspective, to learn about racism and classism and things along that nature. But it's somewhat uplifting because she is super strong and independent and very willing to learn, and like showcases how smart she is and that she's going to be going places. Book that made me happy. Taste the Sage by Yafa S. Santos. So this was sent to me by Harper Perennial, and this was amazing. Super quick read. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets turned into a adaptation or like a rom-com film, because that's the kind of vibe I got from it. But I loved how the main characters, they like blended their different cultures and their cooking styles and cuisines into like a whole like fusion of foods, all while figuring out each other, finding emotions and feelings for each other. And the female main character, she was also very independent and wanting to manage on her own and open her own business after her original one closed. She was trying to get more experience as a sous chef and gain some more financial stability before trying out again. So thought it was amazing. Read this almost in one day, but definitely could be a quick read. Onto the most beautiful book I've bought this year is Longbourn by Jo Baker. Look how pretty that is. Ugh. It's so simple. I love like minimalistic, classic covers like this. And of course it calls back to Pride and Prejudice days, because this is also an adaptation of the story by Jane Austen, but it's through the perspective of the servants in the home and kind of the drama and things that they experience and hear and talk about amongst themselves. I'm kind of getting a Downton Abbey upstairs downstairs vibe just from reading the synopsis and knowing a little bit about the story, but super excited to dive into this one. And finally, books that I need to read by the end of the year. They would be, and I'm so sad and embarrassed to admit that I haven't finished these yet, but parts of the Outlander series. So I've been on, ooh, this is really shiny, the 6th book, A Breath of Snow and Ashes, for I don't know how long. There's still a post-it note in here. There it is. So I lent it to my friend. She's just been barreling through the whole series. Now she's past me. She's on book 8. So this is book 6. And then I also have book 7, An Echo in the Bone. And I'm getting kind of antsy because they're the Facebook group that I follow for the Outlander podcast. They just said that after July 4th, it's going to be a spoiler free. No, the policy, they're getting rid of the spoiler free policy. So you can have at it and talk about any books and content that occurs. And I'm like, shoot, I can't read this or follow them unless I'm caught up. So I need to finish these by the end of the year. Not going to happen before July 4th, that's for sure. But I love the series, but just look how massive this is. And look at the font. It's so small. But I don't know why I'm dragging my feet. I really need to finish these. Somebody hold me accountable. So there we have it. That is my mid-year freak out book tag. A lot more freaking out than I had thought before I had started filming this video, but it was really cool to be able to go back and look through the books from the first half of the year and what I'm excited for the last half. It's a good checkpoint for me. I love doing like mid-year kind of retreats or reflections in general, so this is a good one just for book-related reflections and thoughts. So I'd love to hear more. If you all have done a mid-year freak out book tag, feel free to be tagged yourselves. This is an open tag, so go ahead and post if you'd like or make a video and let me know what you think. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. You can comment below what you're reading and what you've read this past year or half of a year and where you're at with your Goodreads challenge. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe to see more of my face and more of the books and random noises that I make throughout my videos. And trust me, this happens even when I'm by myself, not filming or with other people. I just make weird noises and that's what people know about me, but that's fine. But anyway, I hope you have a great week and happy reading.